Now we're ready to write the interface to create new microposts. Let's take a look at a mock-up. Our plan is to put this form on the home page. So at the upper left, we expect some information about the user, and then this text area with a button to create the micropost. Let's write the create action first. We can take a look at the user's controller, just to remind ourselves how we do this. So here are the steps. First, we need to create a new micropost in analogy with this line here. And now instead of doing micropost.new, we're going to do current user.micropost.build. Remember our table here. This is the way that we create a new user in memory. This is the analog of user.new over here. But now we go through the association, and of course the user in question is the current user that's logged into the session. As with users, instead of giving it a params hash, we're going to give it strong parameters, in this case called micropost params. And then we need to define it, just like we did over here. User params, just copy this here. Actually, we can copy the private part too. Here we go. And then it will be params.require micropost permit content. That's the only thing we're permitted to edit through the web, is the content. So let's go back up to the create action. Now we can say if at micropost.save, it's the same thing. Let's give it a flash message. Redirect to the home page, else we want to re-render the home page with some error messages. Now, as we'll see, we'll be able to reuse the error messages partial, so the error messages will happen automatically. So we just need to render the home page, which is at static pages home. So this is our best guess at the back end. Now let's write the front end. It's going to be on the home page. And now we're going to actually change the home page depending on whether the user is logged in or not. So this stuff here will be for non-logged in users. Let me see if we can do this. And in this section, we can put in the code for logged in users. So let's do this. Tab it over. If logged in, else. Now, I don't like having this much content in the two branches. We're going to have quite a bit here, and then there's all this stuff here. In general, I would define partials for these, but that's fairly straightforward and is left as an exercise. All right, let's look at the mockup again. There are basically two things we need to render. We need this user information here in the upper left, and then the form for creating new microposts. So let's put those in partials preemptively. Let's make a row and an aside. Again, these are bootstrap classes. And there are two sections in the aside. We're going to put the user information in a section with class user info, and let's render a partial. We might potentially use this partial on multiple places in the application, including multiple controllers. So let's put it in the shared directory. And then the second section will be class micropost form. That's this here. Again, these class names are arbitrary, but if you look at the CSS that we pasted in earlier, it has styles for these classes. We'll put that in a micropost form partial. Let's define those partials now. App views shared. And let's make the other one while we're at it. Okay, if we look at the mockup, we've got a gravatar, name, a link to the profile, and the number of microposts. So let's do that. This is the gravatar for the current user. Let's make it size 50. And that's going to be a link to the user path of the current user, so we can just say current user. And then let's make this an H1. Top level heading, which is the name of the user. Oops, I need to put this inside an embedded Ruby. And then let's use spans for the profile link and the number of microposts. So again, I need to put it inside embedded Ruby. Now it would be tempting to put current user.micropost.count here, like this. This would map to the mockup, right, 50 microposts. But what if there's only one micropost? Then you'll get one micropost. We saw the solution to this before. It's the pluralize method. We used it here in the error messages partial. This form contains pluralize the count and then the word to be pluralized. So we can apply the same idea here. Pluralize the count, and the word is micropost. That's the kind of thing, if you're feeling ambitious, you can write a test for. And let's look at the micropost form. This is a form for a micropost. Form variable f. And let's put in a div of class field. And this is now f.textArea. Corresponding to the content. And then we need a submit button. Say post. And this requires, this app micropost requires that there be a micropost instance variable on the page. So let's look at this. This is on the static pages controller. This is in the home page, so we need a micropost here. So the way we would normally do this if it were just by itself would be to do micropost.new, but remember we have an association, so we can say current user.microposts.build. This is just a new micropost. It doesn't need to be initialized with content because that's what we're going to do here. We're going to submit content. But we do only want to define this if the user is logged in. All right, let's see the status of this. Save these. Save. Save. Let's go to the home page. All right, we have an error. There's no user. Where is this? Let's see here. in here. Oh, it shouldn't say current user.user, it should say current user.name. Save that. Try it again. Ah, there we go. This is a good start. Let's see what happens if we submit it. That's even the right behavior, but you'll notice that there were no error messages displayed. I'm also curious to see if this form control class does anything here. So this is something like one of the new pages, new sessions. We had class form control. Let's see what that does here. The micropost form, text area content, class form control. That gives it a rounded view. I actually preferred the other one though. So let's keep it the way it was. I also don't like the size. Remember how we rendered the errors before? If we're here on, say, the new user page. Where is it? Remember we had render shared error messages. So let's copy that. Let's go over to the error messages partial. So we want to change this so that it applies to different kinds of objects. So let's just see what happens if we put object here instead of @user. Can do this, pluralize object.errors.count. Save that and go over here and give it a local variable. Render the error messages partial with object equal to the parent object of the form, so that's f.object. So this form variable here knows which kind of object it is. So if we save this, take a look again. Oh, we still have @user in there, don't we? Yeah, it's right here. Let's try that again though. This should work. Yeah, now we've got an error here. The form contains one error, content can't be blank. There's one more refinement I want to add. It's nice to have little placeholder text here in the box indicating what should go there. And there's a convenient way to do that using this helper here, the text area helper. We can just give it a key value pair placeholder and then the string that we want put in there. Check that out. Actually, let's just go here. Great, compose new micropost. This will actually work. I can click post here. But of course I get redirected back to the same page and it doesn't show me the micropost. We're going to fix that up in a moment, but we can look here. You can see on the profile, it actually did work right here. We'll fix that issue by putting a proto feed on this page. In the next lesson it will be a real feed, but it will be nice to have a first cut so that when we do submit a new micropost it appears right away. We'll do that in a second, but there's actually something wrong with the application. You might suspect it. You can run our test suite. In fact, you can see the tests have already run. 5 errors there. You can rerun them. This is exactly the kind of change, this thing I made in the error messages partial, that's really dangerous. And it's hard to track down all the different places that it affects. But what's great about the test suite is that it'll tell us all those places. And in particular, it'll tell us when we're done. So what's happening here is that all of the places where the error messages partial was used before are now breaking. So let's look at that. Let's look in here, the new page. This needs a different kind of object. This should be, well, it's the same thing. It should be f.object. But in this case, it's going to be a user object instead of a micropost object. I can save that. Now there's only one error. It's an improvement. Now we can see the edit page has the same problem. All right, that's green. Let's rerun the whole suite. Ah, still one more spot. The last place here is the password resets edit template. So let's look at that. And indeed, this is a form for an @user. You do the same thing, object, f.object. And now the test suite should be green. Great. We're pretty deep into the development of this application at this point, and we've developed a really good test suite. So the kind of changes we're making are exactly the kind of changes you would make with a more mature application, where you say, oh, well, we've got this error message as partial we made for users, but now we want to use it for microposts. But it's really scary to make these sorts of changes without a test suite to catch all these little places where things might have gone wrong.